The savage killing of Keith Dardeen, his pregnant wife Elaine, and their 3-year-old son Peter left law enforcement baffled. Investigators pursued numerous leads and even had a confession, but they never came to a conclusion about what had really happened to the family. It was a case that would remain a mystery after the family had an encounter with a monster.
What you think you know is only the beginning.
In the quiet town of Ina, Illinois, on November 17, 1987, a tragedy unfolded that would forever scar the community. Russell Keith Dardeen, 29, and his wife, Ruby Elaine Dardeen, 30, lived in a modest beige and white mobile home nestled among woodlands beside Route 37. Known by their middle names, Keith and Elaine were devoted parents to their 3-year-old son, Peter, and eagerly awaited their second child, a daughter they planned to name Casey. Their lives seemed idyllic, rooted in faith and community. Keith, a native of Mount Carmel, worked as a treatment plant operator at the Rend Lake Water Conservancy District. Elaine, from Albion, was employed at an office supply store in Mount Vernon. The couple was deeply involved in their small Baptist church, where Keith sang lead and Elaine played piano. Their trailer, purchased in 1986, sat on rented land near a busy state highway, visible from Interstate 57. The simplicity of their life belied the growing unease in Jefferson County, where crime rates had spiked. The Dardeens were cautious, especially after a local girl's rape and murder earlier that year. Keith, protective of his family, once refused a young woman entry to their home when she asked to use their phone. This vigilance reflected his concerns about the area's safety, prompting plans to relocate to Mount Carmel. "There's just too many things happening down here," Keith told his mother, Joanne, expressing his fears about the region's violence. On November 18, 1987, Keith failed to report for his night shift at the treatment plant. A reliable worker, his absence was alarming. His supervisor called repeatedly, but the phone went unanswered. Concerned, he contacted Keith's parents, Don and Joanne, who lived in Mount Carmel. Neither had heard from their son, and a growing sense of dread prompted Don to call the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. He agreed to meet deputies at the trailer with a key. That evening, police and Don arrived at the Dardeen home, just north of the Franklin County line. The trailer's back door was unlocked, an unusual detail given Keith's caution. Inside, a horrific scene awaited. Elaine and Peter lay on a waterbed, their bodies battered beyond recognition. Elaine, 7 months pregnant, had been beaten so brutally she went into labor. Tragically, the newborn Casey was also killed, her tiny body tucked beside her mother and brother. The brutality shocked even seasoned officers. Elaine and Peter had been bludgeoned with a baseball bat, a gift from Keith to Peter for his birthday. The killer had taken time to clean the scene, tucking the bodies into bed, suggesting no rush to flee. The absence of forced entry hinted the Dardeens may have known their assailant. Keith's red Plymouth was missing, deepening the mystery. Where was he, and what had happened? Investigators initially suspected Keith. In such cases, a missing spouse often raises red flags. Joanne, however, was adamant. "We knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he wasn't Boran." Her son's devotion to his family was unshakable. The community, already reeling from over 15 homicides in 2 years, including a teenager's killing of his own family, braced for answers. Fear gripped Ina's 2,500 residents. The trailer, positioned near a busy highway, offered little privacy. Yet, the crime occurred unnoticed, likely at night, given the lack of witnesses. A small amount of marijuana was found inside, but Joanne suggested it belonged to the killer, not her frugal son, who sold soda cans to fund Peter's college savings. Robbery seemed unlikely. Valuables like a VCR and camera remained untouched. Joanne, devastated, clung to her faith. "I've got God on my side. He takes care of me." Neighbors, wary of strangers, began carrying shotguns. The local coroner noted that fear was so pervasive that stranded motorists avoided knocking on doors. The Dardeens' church community mourned, their music silenced. Elaine's piano and Keith's guitar would never play again. As night fell, on November 18, the search for Keith intensified. Police scoured the area, hoping to find him alive. the community rallied, organizing impromptu vigils at the Baptist church. Elaine's co-workers at the office supply store shared stories of her warmth, while Peter's preschool teachers recalled his bright smile. The Dardeens were not just victims. They were cherished neighbors, their loss a wound to Ina's heart. The absence of Keith's car suggested he might have fled or been taken. Investigators interviewed friends, family, and co-workers, seeking any hint of conflict. None surfaced. Keith and Elaine's marriage was solid, with no evidence of affairs or grudges. The couple's frugality and faith defined them, not scandal. A stack of papers with sports scores raised questions about gambling, but Joanne dismissed this, citing Keith's thriftiness. The community's fear deepened as hours passed without answers. Local media covered the story cautiously, wary of the crime's brutality. The Dardeens' trailer, once a haven, became a symbol of vulnerability. Residents questioned how such evil could strike a family so ordinary, so good. The unlocked door gnawed at investigators. Had the Dardeens let their killer in, trusting someone they knew? By morning, the investigation expanded. Illinois State Police joined local forces, forming a task force of 30 detectives. They canvassed Ina, knocking on doors and interviewing residents. No one had seen anything unusual. The trailer's proximity to Route 37 and the railroad tracks suggested a transient killer, perhaps a drifter familiar with the area. Yet, the meticulous cleanup pointed to someone calculated, not impulsive. Joanne's resolve hardened. She called the sheriff's office daily, urging them to keep searching. "I'll never give up," she vowed. Her daughter, Anita, struggled with grief, saying, "I'm still numb to this day." The community held its breath, hoping for a breakthrough. The Dardeens' story, one of love and faith, had been shattered, leaving a void that demanded answers. The discovery of Elaine, Peter, and Casey's bodies sent shockwaves through Ina. By November 19, 1987, the search for Keith Dardeen became a desperate mission. Police, fearing he was either a suspect or another victim, expanded their efforts. Jefferson County Sheriff's deputies, alongside Illinois State Police, combed the area around the trailer. Volunteers from the Baptist Church joined, searching woodlands and fields near Route 37, their hope dwindling with each passing hour. Keith's red Plymouth was a critical clue. Its absence suggested he might have fled or been abducted. Police issued an alert, describing the car to local media. That afternoon, hunters found the vehicle parked outside the Benton police station, 11 miles south of Ina. Blood spattered the interior, confirming it as a crime scene. The discovery shifted suspicions. Keith was likely a victim, not a perpetrator. Well, where was he? Hours later, hunters near Rend Lake College, a mile from the trailer, stumbled upon Keith's body in a wheat field. He had been shot 3 times and sexually mutilated, his injuries suggesting intense rage. Forensic analysis revealed he died within an hour of his family, indicating a coordinated attack. The brutality stunned investigators. "It was a constellation of really awful facts," said Gary Duncan, Jefferson County's prosecutor. The investigation intensified. 30 detectives worked full-time, interviewing over 100 people and chasing 1,000 leads. They examined the trailer meticulously, noting the baseball bat used in the murders. No fingerprints or DNA linked to an outsider were found, a limitation of 1987 forensics. The unlocked door and lack of forced entry suggested the killer was let in, possibly someone familiar to the Dardeens. Police canvassed Ina, questioning neighbors and truck stop workers along Route 37. The trailer's visibility from the highway made a daytime attack unlikely, pointing to a nighttime crime. A Love's truck stop nearby raised the possibility of a transient killer, familiar with the area via freight trains or hitchhiking. Yet the cleanup suggested a methodical perpetrator, unafraid of lingering. Community efforts bolstered the search. Volunteers distributed flyers with Keith's photo, though hope faded after his body was found. The Baptist Church held nightly prayers, drawing dozens. "They were the heart of our congregation," a pastor said, his voice breaking. Elaine's co-workers organized searches, combing parks and ditches. The community's unity contrasted with their growing fear of an unseen predator. Investigators explored motives. Robbery was ruled out, Cash, jewelry, and electronics remained untouched. A small amount of marijuana sparked theories of a drug connection, but Keith's frugality and clean record dismissed this. Sexual motives were considered, given Keith's mutilation, but Elaine showed no signs of assault. The delivery of Casey during the attack complicated this theory, suggesting the killer's rage was indiscriminate. Detectives interviewed Keith's co-workers at the treatment plant. A reported dispute with a colleague was investigated but cleared. Friends confirmed Keith's protectiveness, recalling his refusal to let a stranger use their phone. This led to speculation about a specific threat. Had Keith crossed someone? Joanne mentioned his plan to move, citing too many things happening. What did he fear? The emotional toll on investigators was heavy. Detective John Kemp, a veteran, called the scene pure evil. The lack of witnesses frustrated efforts. Police reviewed hours of truck stop surveillance, but 1987 technology yielded little. Phone records showed no unusual calls. The community's fear intensified. Residents locked doors and avoided strangers. A stark change for rural media coverage grew, though details were restrained due to the crime's brutality. Joanne pushed for attention, collecting 3,000 signatures to pitch the case to the Oprah Winfrey Show. Producers declined, citing the graphic nature. America's Most Wanted aired a segment in 1998, but no leads emerged. The case's complexity, multiple victims, 2 crime scenes stymied progress. Theories proliferated. Some speculated a cult, given the mutilation and brutality. Others believed the Dardeens were targeted by mistake, their trailer mistaken for another. Detective Kemp disagreed. "I don't think it was a passerby. The killer's familiarity with the home suggested intent. Had Keith encountered someone at work or church who harbored a grudge?" Joanne's persistence kept the case alive. She called the sheriff's office weekly, her voice a constant reminder. "I just want to know who did this," she told reporters. Her daughter, Anita, joined vigils, clutching Peter's photo. The community's grief fueled their resolve, but leads dried up. The trailer, now a crime scene, stood empty, a haunting reminder of loss. Investigators sent evidence to labs testing nearly 150 items. Blood, hair, and fibers offered no clear suspects. The FBI's cold case unit reviewed files, but 1987 DNA technology was limited. Hopes rested on future advancements. Captain Bobby Wallace, later assigned to the case, believed evidence held the key. "It's going to be more from the evidence than the people." The community's mood darkened. Bonnie's Cafe, near the trailer, buzzed with theories. Locals speculated about drifters or personal vendettas. The railroad tracks near the trailer and Benton Police Station suggested a transient, but the cleanup pointed to calculation. The lack of motive, financial, sexual, or personal, left investigators grasping at shadows. By early 1988, the case grew cold. Detectives followed tips, including a possible link to Angel Maturino Resendez, the railroad killer who traveled by freight trains. His methods matched beating victims near tracks, but no evidence connected him. The Dardeens' murders, with their personal brutality, felt distinct. The community, desperate for closure, faced the reality of an unsolved horror. For over a decade, the Dardeen murders remained a chilling mystery. In 2000, a break emerged when Tommy Lynn Sells, a serial killer on Texas death row, confessed to the killings. Sells, convicted of murdering 13-year-old Kayleen Harris in 1999, claimed responsibility for up to 70 murders, including the Dardeens. His confession, detailed yet inconsistent, became the investigation's most promising yet problematic lead. Who was this man? And could he be the killer? Sells, born in 1964, lived a transient life, drifting across states as a carnival worker and day laborer. He supported himself through theft, often hitchhiking or hopping freight trains. In 1987, he was living near St. Louis, 90 miles from Ana, familiar with the area through his travels. "Anywhere a ride was going, I was heading that way," he later said. His violent history included stabbing and beating victims, often targeting families. Sells claimed he met Keith at a Mount Vernon truck stop in November 1987. In another version, it was a pool hall. He alleged Keith invited him to the trailer for dinner and a sexual encounter with Elaine. The story was implausible. Keith's protectiveness made such an invitation unlikely. Joanne dismissed it. Keith would never entertain such a thing. Sells' shifting accounts raised doubts about his credibility. During interrogation, Sells provided details about the crime. Some matched public reports, like the baseball bat and the trailer's layout. Others, like claiming he shot Keith in a specific car seat, were disproven by evidence. He described watermelon ceramics in the home, a detail investigators questioned. There was a lot of ambiguity, prosecutor Gary Duncan noted, wary of Sells' mix of accuracy and errors. Sells' history of false confessions complicated matters. Like Henry Lee Lucas, another serial killer known for exaggerated claims, Sells admitted to crimes he couldn't fully corroborate. He accurately described some unpublished details, but police suspected he gleaned others from media. His offer to visit Ina and locate hidden evidence was blocked. Texas authorities refused to let him leave, citing death row restrictions. Investigators scrutinized Sells' movements. In 1987, he was active in Missouri and Illinois, often near railroad tracks like those by the Dardeen trailer and Benton police station. His modus operandi, brutal attacks on families often without clear motive, aligned with the Dardeen's case. Yet no physical evidence, like DNA or fingerprints, linked him. The lack of forensic ties frustrated efforts to confirm his guilt. The confession stirred hope in Ina. Joanne, though skeptical, wanted Sells questioned further. "I wanted him to stay alive until I know positively he didn't do it," she told the Associated Press. Detectives interviewed him multiple times, but his inconsistencies, changing locations and details undermined his claims. Was he seeking notoriety, or was he the killer? Police explored other suspects. A co-worker of Keith's, briefly considered due to a dispute, was cleared. Theories of a cult or revenge killing surfaced given the mutilation but lacked evidence. The community speculated about a local with a grudge, but no one fit. Sells remained the primary person of interest, his name on case binders, yet uncharged. The emotional weight of Sells' confession hit hard. Joanne grappled with the possibility, saying, "He could have been the killer, but I need proof." The community, desperate for closure, debated his guilt. At Bonnie's Cafe, locals recalled Sells' drifter lifestyle, wondering if he passed through unnoticed. The lack of resolution left them uneasy, fearing the true killer remained free. Investigators faced a dilemma. Charging Sells without evidence risked closing the case prematurely. Duncan noted, "There's a fair possibility the actual killer may still be out there." The absence of DNA matches, despite testing 150 items, stalled progress. Sells' execution in 2014 for the Harris murder ended hopes of further questioning, leaving the case cold. Some believed Sells, citing his violent history. Others, like Keith's friend Kevin Harris, doubted him. Keith wouldn't let a stranger in. The Baptist Church held memorials, praying for justice. Joanne's persistence inspired locals, who admired her strength. "She's a fighter," a neighbor said, reflecting the town's resolve to keep the case alive. Sells' profile as a drifter fit the transient theory. Railroad tracks near the crime scenes suggested a killer passing through. Yet, the personal nature of the attacks, Keith's mutilation, the family's brutal beating, hinted at rage, not randomness. Detectives wondered if multiple perpetrators were involved, given the logistics of moving Keith and cleaning the scene. The investigation's challenges mounted. Limited 1987 forensics meant no DNA database to cross-check. Modern techniques applied later found no suspect matches. The FBI's involvement yielded profiles, but no names. Captain Scott Burge, reviewing the case in 2019, noted, "It feels like it moves slow." The 20 binders labeled Dardeen held clues, but none definite. Joanne's advocacy kept pressure on authorities. She contacted detectives weekly, sharing tips from locals. A rumor of a strange visitor to the trailer, a man Elaine called one of Keith's friends, intrigued investigators but led nowhere. The community's trust in police waned, yet their support for Joanne grew, her grief a rallying point for justice. The Dardeen murders left Ina, Illinois forever changed. By 1988, with no arrests, the case grew cold, but its impact lingered. Joanne Dardeen, now 81, became the family's voice, vowing, "I'll never give up." Her relentless calls to the sheriff's office kept the case alive, though answers remained elusive. The community, once tight-knit, grappled with fear and mistrust, their sense of safety shattered by the unsolved horror. Joanne's efforts extended beyond calls. She collected 3,000 signatures to pitch the case to the Oprah Winfrey Show, hoping national attention would spark leads. The show declined, citing the crime's brutality, as did early producers of America's Most Wanted. A 1998 segment on the latter yielded no breakthroughs, frustrating Joanne. "They need to know who we are," her daughter Anita urged, echoing the family's plea for justice. The community honored the Dardeens through memorials. The Baptist church, where Keith and Elaine once performed, held annual vigils, drawing dozens. A plaque outside the church read, "In memory of Keith, Elaine, Peter, and Casey." Locals shared stories of the family's kindness, Peter's laughter, Elaine's piano melodies, keeping their memory alive. These gatherings offered solace, though closure remained distant. Systemic issues surfaced. Jefferson County's limited resources in 1987 hindered the investigation. Early DNA testing was rudimentary, and no suspect profiles matched. Captain Bobby Wallace, later assigned, believed modern forensics could help. "The evidence will solve this." The FBI's cold case unit continued analyzing samples, but without a breakthrough, the case stagnated, highlighting gaps in rural policing. Joanne's advocacy inspired reforms. Her persistence led to increased funding for Jefferson County's cold case unit. By 2019, Detective Scott Burge was actively reviewing the Dardeens' files, spurred by Joanne's calls. Community pressure prompted training for local police in advanced forensics, aiming to prevent future cases from going cold. These changes, though small, reflected the case's broader impact. The emotional toll on the family was profound. Anita Dardeen Knapp, Keith's sister, said, "I'm not the same person I ever would have been." Joanne leaned on faith, attending church to pray for strength. Friends like Kevin Harris, Keith's best man, choked back tears recalling the couple's warmth. Their grief fueled a collective resolve to seek justice, no matter how long it took. Theories persisted. Some locals believed the murders were personal, citing Keith's mutilation as a sign of rage. Others saw a random killer, perhaps a drifter like Sells, exploiting Ina's rural isolation. The railroad tracks near the trailer and Benton police station fueled speculation about a transient. Yet the lack of motive, financial, sexual, or vengeful, kept the case enigmatic. Sells' execution in 2014 closed one chapter. Joanne, who wanted him alive for questioning, felt conflicted. "Tommy deserved to die for what he did, but I needed answers," she told KFVS 12. His death ended hopes of clarifying his confession, leaving the family and police to question if the true killer remained at large. The uncertainty haunted Ina. The community's fear lingered. At Bonnie's Cafe, locals debated Sells' guilt, some convinced by his violent history, others skeptical. "It feels too personal for a stranger," a regular said, sipping coffee. The trailer, now abandoned, became a grim landmark. Residents avoided Route 37 at night, wary of unseen threats, a stark contrast to Ina's once open doors. Joanne's legacy became one of resilience. She spoke at true crime forums, sharing her son's story. "I want people to remember Keith, Elaine, Peter, and Casey," she said in 2019. Her efforts inspired podcasts like Morbidology and Crime Junkie, which covered the case, raising awareness. Online discussions on Reddit kept the mystery alive, with users advocating for DNA retesting. Advances in forensics offered hope. By 2025, genealogical DNA testing had solved other cold cases. Joanne urged authorities to retest evidence, believing the killer's DNA was among the 150 items collected. "If they run it now, something should hit," she said. The FBI's involvement continued, though no matches emerged. The case's complexity, multiple crime scenes, no clear motive, challenged even modern techniques. The Dardeen story resonated beyond Ina. It highlighted vulnerabilities in rural communities where isolation and limited policing left gaps. The case prompted discussions on safety, with schools and churches in Jefferson County adopting stricter security. Elaine's co-workers pushed for better workplace safety, citing her dedication. These changes, though incremental, honored the family's memory. Joanne's faith sustained her. "God helps me every step," she told KFVS 12. She maintained contact with Detective Mike Anthis, who led the case until 1994. His metaphor of a clock, each minute a new theory, reflected the investigation's exhaustive scope. Joanne encouraged tips, offering her own contact for leads, ensuring the case remained a community effort. The murder's brutality left a cultural mark. True crime enthusiasts on platforms like Reddit speculated about connections to other cases, like the Keddy murders, though no links were confirmed. The Dardeen story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of violence's reach into even the smallest towns. Documentaries and articles kept their names alive, urging justice. Ina's landscape changed subtly. The trailer was removed, but its site remained a pilgrimage for locals paying respects. The Baptist Church expanded its outreach, offering grief counseling inspired by the Dardeens' loss. "They were our heart," a congregant said. The community's unity, forged in tragedy, became a testament to their enduring love for the family. The Dardeen murders remain one of America's most haunting unsolved cases. Joanne's advocacy, the community's memorials, and ongoing forensic hopes keep the quest for answers alive. The family's legacy of faith, love, and resilience endures, a beacon in Ina's darkness. As Joanne said, we need to keep it going, ensuring Keith, Elaine, Peter, and Casey are never forgotten.
If you're passionate about shocking crimes and secrets that have never been revealed, follow 24H Crimes Archives. We tell the stories of the crimes, and you are the one uncovering the truth. Stay with us, because the truth always speaks.